Hey there, I'm Flora, and today we're going to talk about all things Canadian university applications. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Flora, and I'm currently a first-year biomedical engineering student at the University of Waterloo. Today in this video, we're going to talk about grades, what schools I applied to, not necessarily in that order, and a little bit about the application timeline and my decisions behind what I eventually chose to do. So I don't know about you all, but I was definitely very stressed at this point in time last year. And with all of the hindsight that I now have, I kind of realized that I didn't need to be super hyped up about it as much as I was. So today I'm here to hopefully alleviate some of your stress if you were in the same position last year. And if not, then maybe just hang along and stay for the ride. Without any further ado, let's get into the video. So first things first, I will be going over each of the 5 engineering programs I applied to and a little bit of my reasoning behind each of them. So for those of you who aren't exclusively applying to Canadian unis, I hope that you will still find a little bit of value. This advice and sort of my thought process is definitely applicable to American, even though I didn't take the SATs or anything, which I think saved me a lot of time and money. But if you took the SATs, kudos to you. You know, I applaud that. Basically, my first choice was Waterloo Biomedical Engineering. I thought this program was pretty unique because you actually alternate between 4 months of study terms and 4-month co-op terms for the entirety of the 5-year program. This was pretty awesome because by the time that you graduate, you actually have 2 years of paid co-op experience. And God knows in this economy, we need whatever leverage that we can get. So that was definitely a big plus for me. Another reason why I was more drawn to Waterloo was their awesome engineering facilities. Even though I've never actually set foot on campus, from what I've seen online as well as first-hand accounts from students, they truly do have state-of-the-art everything. So come to Waterloo if you are an engineering nerd like me. In addition, Waterloo also has great support for student entrepreneurs with their programs such as Velocity, which I believe is a student startup accelerator, and also Concept, which is the program that you go pre-Velocity. I thought this was super cool, so if you're also interested in entrepreneurship, starting your own business, or intellectual property, then this may be the school for you. Last but not least, another reason that I was drawn to Waterloo was because of their cohort system. And this is especially prevalent in engineering. Basically, you spend 5 years with the same 100 people, which I thought was super cool because we all know that university can be a tad intimidating at times. And when you have the same 100 friendly faces, it can be a lot easier to find your community and just to get to know the people around you. If you're interested in going to Waterloo, for my program at least, I believe if you have around a 95% average or above, you have about a 50% chance of getting an offer. And the director of engineering admissions, William Bishop, has also created this lovely graph that I will put up on the screen right here. And basically, it shows you your chances of getting into each of the engineering programs with regard to your admissions average. So as you can see, biomedical engineering and software engineering are denoted in the blue. So if you guys are interested in going to Waterloo, they will be basically looking at your top 6 academic grades. If you're from British Columbia like me, that will look like your English 12 course, your Calculus 12 or AP Calculus 12 course, your Pre-Calc 12 course, your Chemistry 12 course, and your Physics 12 course. So if you guys were in AP or IB, then the requirements will be slightly different, but I will link all those nitty-gritty details down in the description below. My second choice was actually engineering at the University of British Columbia. So something that's a little bit interesting about this program is that they actually have a general first year. This means that everybody who's admitted into the Faculty of Engineering will basically be doing the same courses, unless you want to do biomedical engineering as your intended major. Then I believe there's some slight tweaks, but it's still pretty similar. One thing that I think is slightly a bit of a drawback is that at the end of your first year, because it is a general program, you will have to reapply into whatever program that you intend to major in. So whether that's the very coveted engineering physics or civil engineering or integrated engineering or whatever have you, you will have to go through that application process once more. In addition, as someone from the Metro Vancouver area, I can definitely vouch for how absolutely stunning the campus is. Even though I did choose Waterloo in the end, I can tell you that there's really no competition. Like, UBC is just beautiful, guys. It's a nice campus, trust me. Another plus is that if you're from the West Coast like me, you will definitely enjoy the weather a lot more than the harsh Ontario winters. So if that is something that you're considering, perhaps you want to stay in the very mild climate that is Vancouver. And one last thing is that because for me personally, I grew up in the Vancouver area. UBC was always super close to home for me. So I volunteered there, I've attended camps there, and I've also gone to their high school lectures. So I know the campus to some extent, and for me at least, I kind of wanted to get a little bit away from home. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching this, but if you're looking for a little bit of, I guess, freedom. This only applies if you're from the Metro Vancouver area, but perhaps that may be a considering factor like it was for me. So if you do want to go to UBC, they have requirements for both grades 11 and 12, which includes a language 11, which I did not have. So another reason for me not to go to UBC, but I would have done that online had I decided to go. Anyway, I will be putting the prereqs up on the screen right here so you guys can take a look, and I will also be linking that down in the description below. The third program that I applied to was Track 1 or Undeclared Engineering at the University of Toronto. So according to U of T, this program is for students who don't quite know what type of engineering that they want to major in. So in first year, you'll basically get to dabble in each of the disciplines that they have to offer. For U of T, the grades that they will be looking at are your English 12, Pre-Calculus 12, Calculus 12, Chemistry 12, and Physics 12. So very similar to Waterloo in that sense. Personally, I did not want to go to U of T that much, just because I've heard certain things about the campus culture, like it being a commuter school and it being a little bit more difficult to get to know people in your program. I've also heard rumors about like snakiness and competitive students, but I'm sure that's, you know, it's only a rumor, and that's also prevalent in whatever university that you choose to go to, except Waterloo, because they're the best. I'm just kidding. But yes, that's a little bit of why I didn't quite want to go to U of T, and this, bear in mind, was also the downtown campus. But I mean, that's only my personal experience, so if that's the school for you, then perfect, you found your school. But those are just a couple of my own thoughts. So the last two schools I applied to were McGill Bioengineering and McMaster Engineering with Co-op. The reason why I lumped the two of these together is because they had a very similar application process in that I basically put in my grades online, paid the application fees, and waited for them to get back to me whenever they did. For me, I think these were more of my backup schools in that I had looked into their programs and didn't think that they were quite for me, but under the suggestion of my parents, they definitely wanted me to apply to more schools just in case I wanted more options, and I am very grateful for them because they paid for my university application, so thank you, Mom and Dad. But basically, McGill has a pretty good bioengineering program, and I think Montreal is an awesome city, especially if you want to immerse yourself in more of that French-Canadian culture. You know, who doesn't love a little poutine? But other than that, as you can see, I am not the most cultured about my own country, but that's okay. For McMaster, I basically needed one more university to fill up my OUAC application because they will charge you for 3 regardless of how many you want to apply to, or at least a minimum of 3 they will charge you for. And I figured I was, you know, like McMaster's pretty good. Why not slap it on my application if I have to pay for one more anyways? So for me personally, at least, it was just to keep my options open. But if McGill or McMaster is the school for you, then again, woohoo, you found your school. Very nice. Of course, when you're applying to university, grades play a pretty substantial role in your application. I was in the IB certificate program. So for those of you who aren't super familiar with that, that's the International Baccalaureate. They offer both a diploma program, which is a 2-year pretty intensive course load, and a certificate program, where you get to pick and choose whatever courses that you want to take from the IB program, but you're not obligated to do all of the courses plus CAS, so that's creativity, action, and service hours, and your 4,000-word extended essay. So for me, the reasons why I chose to do partial or certificate was because my school had a pretty good music program, if I do say so myself, and in grade 10, I was basically given an ultimatum. I could either do full IB diploma and not do jazz, or I could stay in the music program and do certificate. And for me, that just seemed like the way to go. I got to keep a passion or a hobby of mine that I really enjoyed throughout high school, and also do some really fun courses that I also quite enjoyed. So you really get the best of both worlds. For me, some of my grades for university, especially when I was applying, look something like this. So I will put them up on the screen as I proceed to talk to you. So I would definitely note that grades are not the end-all be-all for university applications. You really want to pay close attention to your mental health as well. Please don't sacrifice that for a little bit of a higher admission average. It's really not worth it. But at the same time, you want to show that you can definitely handle the university workload that will be thrown at you in the first year. So academics are definitely still important, don't get me wrong. So a couple things that I would note are that I did not take Calculus 12 until the second semester of grade 12, which means that universities did not see it when I applied. You're probably thinking like, Flora, I thought you just told me that they will look at Calculus 12, but that's when they're looking at your final grades. Sorry, the word escaped me, but it came back. Brain fart. Anyway, basically, if you don't have the prerequisite grade at the time that the universities are processing your application, they will just look back in your files and see whatever closest prerequisite course that you took, and they will use that as a stand-in for the time being. I would also note that I took Human Geography 12 in summer school, and that was the only course I did outside of regular school, just because I really wanted to fill my timetable with STEM courses, being the nerd that I was. I wanted to get that socials credit out of the way, so I did that in the summer prior to grade 11. So some universities like Waterloo kind of discourage taking prerequisite courses in night school or summer school, but just because this course wasn't super relevant to my major, that's why I decided to do it in those external sort of circumstances. I did make sure to justify it in my application. They'll typically have an area where you can just let the universities know if there's anything else that you want them to consider, and that's what I let Waterloo know. So I think as long as you all kind of explain your decisions, it really should not be a big deal at all. Now, on to extracurriculars. So when you're applying to universities that have a supplemental application, this is a great way for you to show that you are a well-rounded student and that you are more than just your marks. So think about it from the university's point of view. They basically want to see that A, you can handle their workload, B, that you will continue paying them their juicy tuition, which basically the same point as the first one, but also that you may graduate and go on to do great things, because that reflects really well on the university. So think about Kevin O'Leary, a very famous, or say infamous, Waterloo alumnus. He really went on to do great things in the entrepreneurial world, which reflects well on Waterloo, that he went there as opposed to say Queen's or UofT. So yeah, that's what the universities are looking for, just that you can take on that workload, that you're showing initiative in different areas outside of academics, and also you have a genuine interest in whatever area that you're intending to pursue, whether that be like say science or engineering or business or whatever have you, all worthy pursuits, including arts. We love you too. So for me, my own extracurriculars were mostly related to STEM, just because that's something that I really enjoyed. When you're writing in these different supplementals, so for Waterloo, they have their admissions information form. For UofT, you have your online student portfolio, or OSP. And for UBC, you have your personal portfolio. profile, sorry, which they do not have an acronym for because that is PP, and that is kind of unfortunate. So without any further ado, on to my own extracurriculars. Again, since they were pretty STEM involved, the first one that comes to mind was definitely STEM outreach. This is something that I really enjoyed and did every summer and throughout school since grade 10. Basically, I would spend at least a couple weeks at a local science or physics, well, I guess same thing, outreach camp where I would lead activities, where I would design lesson plans and basically mentor and spend time with these kids. It's really something that I enjoyed because it gave me an outlet to geek out and kind of share my nerdy personality with the children, and I got the chance to teach them something new, which was always super fun. So if you're kind of into working with children and you also like science, this is a great way to combine them both. In addition to STEM outreach, something else that I did, or actually backpedaling a little bit, I'll talk a little bit more about what I did during school. So that's what I did during my summers. But I was also the president of my school science club, where basically I would lead weekly activities or lessons just on little ways to make science more fun. So for example, we would do a lesson on the science of s'mores and the Maillard reaction, where we basically gave people marshmallows on like a little skewer and they would roast them on Bunsen burners. So safety first, we made sure everyone had good PPE. And also I would organize our annual STEM outreach events for elementary schoolers. Basically, we would have around 50 elementary schoolers come into the school and give them just a super fun day of science demos and kind of introduce them a little bit to the realm of science and perhaps prod them into or I guess indoctrinate them into the cult, you know, because we love STEM here. But aside from STEM outreach, something else that I did throughout high school was a program called Future Science Leaders. Basically, this is an after-school program run by the wonderful people at the TELUS World of Science, where you go in once a week after school and basically listen to industry professionals and scientists talk about their work and learn a little bit more about the different fields out there. In second year of the program, you basically have the option to join either the engineering stream or the research stream, where again you are mentored by professional engineers or scientists, which I thought was super cool. They will walk you through the different procedures that you should be following when you're writing science papers or research journals, as well as give you the opportunity to have a 10-week independent project. For me, I worked on something called a piezoelectric energy harvester, which was basically an insole that when you stepped on, it would generate some minuscule amount of energy. So to be completely honest, my project was not a huge success in terms of the amount of energy generated, but it was definitely more of the learning process. So I learned skills like soldering, keeping a good lab notebook, as well as writing up my results in their annual paper or peer-reviewed journal. I believe it's called the esteemed journal, you know, STEAM. So I'll put that pun up there. And I highly recommend this program to any students going into grades 10 or 11 in the lower mainland. It's an awesome way to brush up some of your science skills as well as show that interest outside of strictly school. So I'll link those applications down in the description. I believe you apply in around the spring of the previous year, but I will make sure that all the information is correct down below. So another extracurricular that I did, this time not related to science, was jazz band, like I mentioned earlier. This was something that I've been involved with ever since I moved to my school in grade 10. I also played trombone at my previous school, but it definitely wasn't as intensive. Band wasn't as cool there. You know, band kids are cool too. But basically we would have rehearsals every day at my current school and go around to festivals and competitions throughout the year. So places such as the Surrey Jazz Festival, Lionel Hampton down in Idaho, as well as various shows. I believe we opened for the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra when I was in grade 12, and just really fun things like that. So one plus is that sometimes jazz bands will take you on really fun jazz trips. Man, I'm saying jazz a lot, but doesn't matter. So for example, in grade 11, I went to Disneyland, and in grade 12, I was supposed to go to New Orleans and learn a lot about the deep history behind jazz music, but unfortunately, it was canceled due to, guess what? The pandemic! So yeah, it's been an interesting year for all of us, we'll deal with it. Anyway, jazz is something that I definitely enjoyed, and it gave me an outlet to kind of express myself outside of school. So that was something that I did. And last but not least, I also worked a part-time job throughout high school. So I think I started in grade 11, and this was partially because jazz trips are pretty expensive, and I didn't really want to burden my parents too much, so I got a job. So this was around anywhere from 5 to 15 hours per week, and I thought it was a really awesome way to show responsibility, as well as show employers that you can take initiative to apply yourself outside of the typical, school setting, which has been kind of the theme with extracurriculars. So aside from those, nothing particularly comes to mind at the moment, but of course, as always, I will link stuff down in the description if you're curious to learn more. Yeah. So I did actually forget one of my extracurriculars, and that was basically STEM competitions. So as again, we have the whole STEM theme because that was what I really liked in high school. Basically, I would do these local competitions every year since grade 9. We have KPU Fall Science Challenge. There's JPEC, which I believe is Junior Physics and Engineering Challenge for those of you in grades 10 or below. And in grade 11, I did the UBC Physics Olympics, which not to flex or anything, but my team actually won. And honestly, it was 100% due to the spectacular team members that I had that year. I was super fortunate, as well as our very amazing coach. So if you guys went to the high school that I went to, you know exactly who I'm talking about. So shout out to you. Lots of love to that teacher. Really got me through high school. But this is an awesome way to showcase a little bit of that science skill outside of your typical setting. It shows that you're really interested in the field, as well as your ability to kind of set time aside and plan for the pre-builds and study for the competition and so on and so forth. So yes, highly recommend. No matter where you are, I'm sure that there's some science competition near you. Again, super fun, highly recommend. In terms of acceptances, I got my first one from McGill only a few days after applying on January 28th, followed by UBC on February 25th and McMaster on March 18th. As for Waterloo, I still remember the day on April 2nd. I woke up, checked my phone, and there was an email from Waterloo, and I literally yelled in happiness because I was just yes! It was the school that I was waiting for. So as you can see, I was very excited. I kind of woke my parents up, but they live with me, so they deal with these types of things. I would note that for Waterloo, I know that for my year at least, the earliest that they were doing was end of March, which was actually when my admission was dated for. But for some reason, I only got the email on April 2nd. So I'm sure that there was some sort of emailing thing going on. But it doesn't matter because that is the school I went to, and I'm very happy that I'm there. So no complaints whatsoever. Waterloo, I love you. Let's see. The last university that I heard back from was actually UofT, which got back to me, I think, on May the 8th. They also gave me the largest scholarship out of my schools that I applied to, but it didn't really matter because by that point, I was very much decided on Waterloo. So speaking of scholarships, I highly recommend applying to external ones because if you think about it, when you spend however long writing a scholarship, even if you get one out of the 20 or whatever, however many you apply for, think about that money in terms of the amount of hours spent, and I guarantee you that it's better than whatever job that you can find as a high school student. So know your time and money's worth. A mistake that I made in my own experience was kind of just not taking the time to do this, which I kind of regret now because money's out there. When you get to university and live as a college student, things can get kind of tight. So I would just recommend applying for scholarships. In terms of the ones that I received from schools, U of T gave me $5,000. UBC gave me the TUM Est scholarship. I don't know if I'm saying that right, which is $3,000. And the condition is that you do some sort of experience, whether that be co-op or undergraduate research. And Waterloo gave me $2,000. I know that these aren't the most spectacular numbers, and that's okay because I wasn't putting as much effort as I could have been towards scholarship applications, and that is something that I kind of regret. So learn from my mistake, guys. Go out there and get that money. So to wrap this video up, I have some final tidbits of advice. The first of which is to definitely read admissions blogs, such as the ones by, I think, Bill Anderson for Waterloo Engineering, as well as some students like Peng. He has an awesome SE/computer science blog. I think it's just really great, at least for me personally, to read about other people's own experiences or even watch YouTube videos. It helped me relieve a lot of my stress knowing that, you know, like people out there, even if you didn't cure cancer or if you didn't have like 100% average, they're still getting into some pretty awesome schools. So hopefully that may help you guys. I also consulted Reddit mega threads, which I don't know if that's like the best resource, just because, you know, like anyone can post on Reddit, but then again, this is the internet, so anyone can post almost anywhere. So just be mindful of your resources. Another thing that I would keep in mind is definitely go to like older friends and family. If they've applied to university before, they probably know exactly what you're going through, and I bet you they would probably be more than happy to help you out. So definitely don't ask them to like write your university applications, but just maybe some requests for like advice in there. Just what are some things I should keep in mind? What are some things that you personally struggled with? You'll probably find some good nuggets that I did not give you here today. And last but not least, don't stress too much. I know that this is much easier said than done, but at the end of the day, even if you don't get into your top choice, I know it hurts, but there's always some other way. There's university transfers, or you can maybe go to your second choice and decide that you really like it, or, you know, there's always some sort of back door that you can wiggle through. So no matter what it is, keep your heads up, guys. You got this. If there's any more questions whatsoever, please feel free to drop them down in the comments below and I will do my best to get back to you. And if you guys enjoyed this video or found any value, I would really appreciate a subscribe or a thumbs up, as this is my first ever video and it really encouraged me to continue doing this. So thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you guys have an awesome day or night or whatever. Have a good one.